Hey, how's it going everybody? Aaron J. Holt here with another video. Now, this video is going to be a little different because in case you didn't know, the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And since it's the last day of May, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you guys about my mental illness. I had intended to make a video about this last year, but I never got around to it. And I'm not willing to wait yet another year to tell you guys about it, so let's dive on into it, shall we? So, the mental illness that I have is known as intermittent explosive disorder, or IED. So what is IED? Well, according to mayoclinic.org, and I'll leave a link to their site down in the description below, intermittent explosive disorder involves repeated sudden bouts of impulsive, aggressive, violent behavior or angry verbal outbursts. The reactions are too extreme for the situation. Road rage, domestic abuse, throwing or breaking objects, or other temper tantrums may be symptoms of intermittent explosive disorder. These explosive outbursts, which occur off and on, cause major distress. They can harm relationships and cause problems at work or school. They can also result in problems with the law. Intermittent explosive disorder is a long-term condition that can go on for years, but the severity of outbursts may lessen with age. Treatment involves talk therapy and medicine to help you control your aggressive impulses. And unfortunately, this is something that I know all too well. So I started showing symptoms of my mental illness right around the time when I was in about 4th or 5th grade. At first, I was just feeling irritable all the time. Like, I thought it was just a result of kids picking on me because I got picked on a lot in school back then. So I thought, it was nothing to worry about. I thought it was just because I got picked on too much that, I was just angry at that, But then when I got into middle school, and especially when I went from 6th grade to 7th grade, the anger outbursts got much more severe. My anger just built and built and built. And like it says in the overview on the Mayo Clinic website, objects started to get broken. When I was in school, I would break my pencils on the desk. I really didn't have any outlet for my anger. I didn't really know what to do. This was well before, I went to see any doctor or was put on any medication. And it wasn't until I was a little more than halfway through 7th grade that I had the biggest anger outburst yet. And it got so bad, and I won't disclose the details of what happened, but it was so bad that I ended up getting sent to a different school. It's something that I'm not proud of at all, and it's something that I have regretted every day since, and it was absolutely horrible. And you can tell it's really hard to talk about. I mean, this is like, I think, the 4th take that I've done trying to talk about it. I really don't know how to talk about it. So I'm not sure when I first went to see a doctor about my mental illness, but when I did, they first diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. But eventually, they realized that my symptoms didn't fit certain criteria, and then they reclassified it as intermittent explosive disorder. Now, thankfully, I have my anger pretty much in check. And I take medicine on a daily basis, and I see a therapist on a bi-weekly basis. And it has been, I want to say almost a year, or just over a year since my last anger outburst. So I have a pretty good track record. it goes to show that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to. And I'm proud of the progress that I have made. And I've got to say, looking back, I'm proud of the progress that I have made. Looking back on my grade school years when I was struggling with my anger versus how I'm doing now, I gotta say, I'm really proud of how far I've come. And it just goes to show that, you can do anything that you put your mind to. So I'm really, really proud of the progress that I have made. So, continuing on with the description of IED, let's talk about the symptoms. Now, according to mayoclinic.org, the symptoms of IED, impulsive attacks and angry outbursts occur suddenly with little or no warning. They usually last less than 30 minutes. These bouts may occur often or be separated by weeks or months. Verbal outbursts or less severe physical attacks may still occur in between these times. You may be irritable, impulsive, aggressive, or angry most of the time. Before an aggressive bout, you may feel rage, irritability, more tension and energy, racing thoughts, tingling, shaking, fast or pounding heartbeat, and chest tightness. The explosive verbal and behavioral outbursts are much too intense for the situation, with no thought about what might happen as a result. The outbursts can include temper tantrums, long angry speeches, heated arguments, shouting, slapping, shoving, or pushing, physical fights, property damage, threatening or harming people or animals. You may feel a sense of relief and tiredness after the outburst. Later, you may feel guilty, sorry for your actions, or embarrassed. So I've had people ask me, what is it like to live with intermittent explosive disorder? And I think the best way to describe it is, think about the angriest that you've ever gotten. Like the angriest. The absolute angriest that you've ever gotten. You know how you felt just before you lost it? Like that anger just, simmering just below the surface right before you lost your temper? Okay, imagine that, but simmering like that 24/7. That's how it feels for me. And the slightest thing could set me off like that. Now, thankfully, with the help of the medication, it dials that down. It helps keep that in check. If it weren't for the medication, oh man, I'd be feeling that, bubbling beneath the surface constantly. I mean, it would be super difficult to live with. It is super unpleasant to live with, and this mental illness is not something I would wish on anybody. It's super difficult for me to live with, and I'm stuck with it for life. And the thing is that when I do get into an anger outburst, my mind kind of just switches off. So it's like the primordial side, or not primordial, the primitive, I think is the right term to use. The primitive side of my brain takes over. And so I don't think, like the thinking part of my brain switches off and I just rage about, I often nickname my mental illness the Hulk disease, because I'm not thinking. All I am is just a big, walking angry, machine. I really don't know how to put it, I want to say I'm the Incredible Hulk, but I don't increase in size, I don't turn green, and thank goodness my pants stay on. But, the thinking centers of my brain turn off, and, I fly into an uncontrollable rage, and I don't realize what I've done until after I've calmed down. And even then, it's so difficult to think because rage is still pulsing through me. At least living with intermittent explosive disorder this long, I can at least recognize the signs of when an episode is coming on. And so one thing that I try to do is isolate myself from everyone else so that I don't hurt anybody, and I make sure that, that I don't hurt anybody, and, that I just have the episode all alone so that people stay safe. And one example of this is that the episode that I had a year ago that I mentioned, it was during the Tech Week of Pinocchio with Lakeshore Players Theater in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. I was having just a horrible, horrible day. Nothing was going right, and I had gotten to rehearsal. Everyone could tell that I was not having a good day, and I had just gone to the dressing room to sit by myself, and I was just taking some deep breathing exercises and just trying to calm down. Even with my medication, sometimes, that the medication isn't enough. Medicine can only do so much, and I could tell that, even though I hadn't missed a day of medication in months, that my anger was simmering, and it was only a matter of time before I blew my top, and I knew that I had to lock myself away somewhere before I flew into a rage. And so we had, what do you call bathrooms that are for one person only? Like single person bathrooms, yeah? So, there were like single person bathrooms in the dressing rooms, and I went into one of those, just locked myself in, and just got down on the floor on my hands and knees, and just let my anger out right then and there, because I knew it was going to come out at that point, and I had to let it out, and better to do it in an isolated area rather than out in the open. And thankfully they were very understanding, and I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I was just yelling at the top of my lungs until my voice went absolutely hoarse, and I was pounding on the floor with my fists, and thankfully there was nothing in there that I could break. I didn't want to break anything, so all I did was just pound my fists on the floor. So I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it at all. And it's not easy to talk about, and I was contemplating even talking about my mental illness at all, and you can tell it's very difficult to talk about. But I feel it is important to talk about because mental illness has been stigmatized so much, and we really need to understand it, and we really need to eliminate the stigma around it. So the outburst lasted for about 10-15 minutes, and I just screamed until my throat was raw, and my fists were really starting to ache from beating the floor. And after the 15 minutes of screaming and pounding the floor, I just lay slumped over on the floor for about 5 minutes, just breathing heavily. And thankfully, the stage manager, who's a very, very kind and caring friend of mine, you know, bless her heart. But the stage manager waited and was very patient and understanding, and I felt horrible. I never wanted anyone to see or hear me like that. Because not all people are as understanding and tolerable as my friend is. But eventually, you know, after I had calmed down a little bit, and it takes me a long time for me to calm down from an anger outburst. It could take, believe it or not, it could take about a week for me to fully get over from what ticked me off. And it's not easy, but it's really difficult. So thankfully, the stage manager was very kind, very caring, very compassionate, and they have more maturity and wisdom than I think I'll ever acquire in my lifetime. But they helped me get through the whole ordeal, and I felt so horrible about, you know, I didn't damage or anything, and thankfully no one got hurt because I had locked myself away, but even so, I never want anyone to see or hear me like that. It's so horrible. And like I said, we really need to eliminate the stigma around mental illness. Because I have this line I always say: it's one thing to study mental illness, to read about it, to, you know, learn about it in a classroom. That's one thing. It's another thing to actually live with it, you know? Yeah, it's one thing to study mental illness, to read about it in a book. That's one thing. But to actually live with it, to actually feel it, that's a whole nother thing entirely. So, it's horrible. And it's ruined so much in my life, you know. It's ruined so much at work, in theater. It's ruined a lot of my relationships. You know, it's why I'm still single at age 34, you know. And yeah, and like it said, you know, when the outburst is over, you feel a very deep sense of remorse, and that is what I really feel each time. After each and every outburst, you know, remorse is a great feeling that I have. Even well after the outburst. Like, and I mean like well after the outburst, like months after, I still feel it, you know. Like if the person I had the outburst about, you know, if I cross paths with them, you know, months later, you know, they may be all smiles, you know, and be like, "Hey, Aaron, how's it going?" You know, but the first thing that goes through my mind is, "Oh no, do they remember what I did all those months ago?" You know, I still have those, you know, because that's all I think about, you know, and I can never get over those. It isn't fun, and I'm starting to tear up because of it, and I've been trying to find like a positive outlet for all this rage, and I have yet to find one. I actually did find one. In 2019, I played the role of the Beast in a stage production of Beauty and the Beast, and as we know, the Beast has major anger problems, so I was actually, able to channel my anger into the character, so thankfully, I was able to, do that, but, aside from that character, I wasn't really sure, I'm not really sure what else, what else my anger can be good for. And this is why Frozen is my favorite Disney movie, and it's also why Elsa is my favorite Disney character. It's because I understand what she's going through. It's because she's afraid of hurting other people with her powers. And so she chooses to isolate herself from others in order to keep them safe. And she doesn't know if she has any good purpose for them, See, I live on my family's farm, and whenever I'm at home, I tend to spend the majority of my time here in my room. Because, honestly, I'm afraid of opening up. I'm afraid of being around others because I'm afraid of going into an aggressive outburst and getting other people hurt. And, it's even the same whenever I'm going out, whether it be at work or at rehearsal or family gatherings. Wherever I go, I don't tend to stay in one place very long, where there's other people. I tend to be just a lone wolf, And that's why I love Frozen so much, and that's why I love Elsa so much. It really, really resonated with me, and that's why I was so excited to hear about auditions for Frozen the musical at the Children's Theater Company in the Twin Cities. It's my absolute favorite musical, and I auditioned for it last summer, but unfortunately I didn't get cast. Right now, it's a little more than halfway through its run, and I'm really, really bummed about that. I did see the North American Broadway tour of Frozen the musical a while back when it was still performing. I loved it. It was back in 2020, I think. Yeah, because we had to get COVID shots and have masks on, and I loved it, and I wanted to audition for it, but then they ended their Broadway tour and they ended their stint on Broadway, and I was so bummed. And it's what I wanted to do. It's the show I wanted to audition for, and now I can't. So, after The Little Mermaid runs its course in July, then I'll start my auditions for Disney Cruise Line. So I can only hope that I'll get, hired by Disney Cruise Line, and hopefully I can turn that into a solid career. So I'll just have to make do with the best that I have. So there you have it, guys. That's my mental illness story. I really feel like I needed to talk about this. I feel it's important to talk about it. I feel that mental illness really needs to be destigmatized. And it's something that we don't talk about enough in this country, and we need to have a more deep and honest discussion about it, and it's a time for gathering facts, not finger-pointing. And unfortunately, the conspiracy theorists and all the crazies just, shove out misinformation and disinformation and really just make a whole muck of things, but I'm really glad that I shared my story here on my channel with you guys. So, with that being said, I will be leaving this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of my story. Just remember, please keep the comments kind. Also, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about my latest videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Roll the outro!